Right now, we have something happening in our launch world that I want to make sure our launch family really knows about, and it's called the Launch Masterclass.
So the whole idea is I've got to share this value, to give people this amazing free training.
We're teaching people how to launch, and we're doing it by doing a launch. And that's something we 100% lean into.
What's built this company is just the results that our clients have gotten over the years.
It's 2 weeks out of the year. It's not a whole lot of time to pack as much as we can in.
My thinking, at least, is why not have some fun while you're doing it? It will be an experience.
Hello, Launch family. So happy to have you listening to today's episode of Dare to Launch. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Jeff Walker.
Hey, everybody.
And today we're also joined by a very special guest. He's our marketing lead, and you might recognize him from previous Dare to Launch episodes and many of the lives with Jeff, Mr. Dan Walker. Welcome back.
Hey, everybody. Stoked to be here.
Yeah, we're stoked to have you back. And I'm stoked about today's topic, too. I wanted to get you both on because right now we have something happening in our launch world that I want to make sure our launch family really knows about. And it's called the Launch Masterclass. And so, Jeff, can you talk a little bit about what is this Launch Masterclass that's going on right now?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I'm just pumped up because we build up to this for a full year. When I say we, it's me and my entire team. And what it is like the world's greatest free training on launching and growing your business that exists anywhere in the world. And so I've been doing this. It went from I to we a number of years ago. The first time I did this was in 2005. It's evolved a lot since then. We've had over 1 million people go through the Launch Masterclass over the years. And it's just been this massive evolution. And it's something that I've built my business and my reputation on, is just going all in here. It's 10 or 11 days. It's varied over the years exactly in format and length, but the bottom line is we just go all out. We spend a year planning this, and we have fun. It's going to be exciting, and we're going to get a lot of people launched.
Yeah. This is, I always get excited this time of year because it comes around every year, right? But it's only once a year that we do this. Only one time. And I would say, I mean, for people who don't know what to expect in this kind of like masterclass, like it's free. First off, can we just say that it's absolutely free for people to go into? And then like once they actually go to it, what are they going to get? Like what should they know about?
Well, like I said, it has evolved over the years quite a bit, but last year we went back to the drawing board, and this is something Dan and I worked on. Well, the whole team worked on, but Dan and I have been working on these masterclasses together for, I don't know how long it's been, probably over a decade for sure. So this, in the olden days, it was done via really ugly screen capture video. And then we had full motion video, like regular video. And then we had beautiful, like story-driven narrative arc, B-roll, fancy video. And then starting around, I don't know, maybe 17 or 18, we went all in on live. And every one of these, it felt like we've been leading the industry, because like we do something and a couple of years later, everyone else starts copying what we've done. Or maybe not even a couple of years, maybe it's just a couple of months. But last year we had a massive reinvention of this masterclass. So the whole idea is I've got to share this value, to give people this amazing free training. And yes, this will lead into an offer. We will open up this year's cohort for my product launch formula coaching program. So I'm going to make an offer at the end of this masterclass, but really what we do is we just go all out and blow people away with the free training. So they're like, okay, if they're giving me this much for free, then maybe I should look into their paid stuff. So that's the whole theory behind it. But like the thing that we really leaned into last year was a combination of on-demand video training, live training, Q&A, and PDFs. And that brings together this entire package that just gets people moving and gets them launched.
And Dan, you're working with Jeff behind the scenes here a lot to make a lot of this happen at what we call our secret headquarters. What are you excited about in this year's launch masterclass?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we're when we've done all these different redesigns that Jeff is just talking about, it's interesting to think like what's kind of the goal there, right? Like what's the point of doing these redesigns? Like it's a good bit of work to change up an entire format and to redesign something as epic as the launch masterclass. The reality is that this is our big launch every year. This is our big launch for Product Launch Formula. So our goal is to welcome in as many new PLF owners as we can, but the absolute best way that we can do that is by showing the magic, by welcoming as many people as possible into the launch masterclass. And then the really key thing is making sure that people get as much value as possible out of the launch masterclass. So every time that we've redesigned it, it's come from a core place of, okay, what's going to be the best experience for someone going through this? If they're just stumbling across us, or if they've followed Jeff for 20 years, but they're looking to learn how to launch or learn how to launch even better than they already know, then what's going to be the best experience for them? So for a while, we were kind of limited by technology, right? You weren't doing big live streams. You weren't doing fancy videos. Those just weren't really things that were super common online. But nowadays, we have so many options. And so, we were doing fancy videos and people were really liking those. And then for a while there, live streams were kind of the new hot thing, right? Everyone was excited about that. It was like, oh, cool. I get to sit down. I get a live training. I can ask questions. It was something that got people excited. And when people were excited to consume it, then they went through it all and they learned how to launch. And it was a great experience for everyone going through the free training. And we welcomed in a whole bunch of new PLF owners from it. But then, I'm sure you felt it, in the last couple of years, man, it just feels like if you're on every live training thing that you would like to be on, it's like you never do anything else with your life, right? You just sit on live trainings all the time. And it feels like everybody wants you to show up to their many hour-long live thing just to, that's like the minimum right now. It's like, show up to this big thing. And so we're like, you know what? I think maybe people are getting a little sick of that. Maybe they're getting a little sick of having to show up live for things, having things on their calendar, having to be on Zoom all the time. So we're like, okay, how can we make this an even better experience for people? Well, we didn't want to totally ditch the live stuff because there's still some real magic there. But what we wanted to do was get people excited, get people working, and get people to a point where it was a really exciting thing to get on the live stream again. So what we've done is we kind of did a little bit of a hybrid here, So we went back, we filmed videos, we made them as short and as tight and as actionable as possible. The goal is that people can get through these trainings. They can really learn the core of the launch formula as quickly and easily as possible. We've got some live Q&As going on, but it isn't like you have to show up to every single one. We really have these as almost kind of like open office hours. If you ever had those in college, it's like open office hours or with a manager. It's like you can just drop by, ask a question, and then head on out when you're done. We host them like that. And then once we get up to our third lesson, which is really where everything kind of comes together and you see how to implement everything we've learned so far in the launch, that's the one that we do live, because that's the one where we really want to go a little bit longer. There's a lot of nuances there. It's where it all comes together, and it's where it's really important to be able to ask Jeff questions as they come up to make sure you're clear on the process. So to me, it's just exciting that every step of the way we're going through this and we're like, how does this get people further? How do we teach people in the best possible way we can because if the masterclass is only, it's what, 2 weeks? So yeah. It's 2 weeks out of the year. It's not a whole lot of time to pack as much as we can in. And so it's like, okay, how can we pack as much in while still keeping it as easy to go through as possible?
I was thinking one of the things about this, it's so much an editing process because we could teach for hours and hours and hours and hours. There's just no limit because we've been doing it for a long time and we're the best in the world at this. And so how do we edit, and make it as tight as possible so people can get the most value in the shortest amount of time? So like Dan was just saying, we'll have 2 big lessons that will drop, and they'll be super consumable and super tight. And that will give you the groundwork that to then show up hopefully live with us on Sunday. I think I just looked at the calendar. It was August 25th. Because there are things that are done better in video and there are things that are done better live. And when you're live, it's just a more immersive environment. And if you look at the whole masterclass, we're giving you sort of the strategy, the types of the primary launch strategy in that first lesson, the major types of launches, so you can pick the right launch for you in that second lesson. Then the third lesson is where it all comes down to actually launching and making the sale and bringing in the dollars. And those are the things that I think people, that live environment shines, because I think we need to do a little more coaching around that, because a lot of people, might not be comfortable with the sales, with asking for the order and making that sale and doing it in a powerful way that actually brings in clients. So, we sort of have fit the different media for different purposes. So we bring you up to speed on all the strategies, and then we get you on live with us where I can coach you into actually making the sale. So we've put a lot of time and effort into making it as consumable and as tight as possible, and also as impactful and actionable.
Yeah, there's so much stuff left on the cutting room floor. Just thinking back, a few weeks ago now when we were first having those planning conversations around this, and it's like there's so many good ideas coming up, and then they were all like ones that you get excited about, and then it's like, okay, but you know
Yeah.
what is absolutely necessary here, because we could go so deep, but it's like, how do we go deep enough while keeping it something that is it's easy to learn, it's quick to learn, and then it's going to be quick to put into action.
And I think back to like even just not this summer, but the summer before that, when we were all together in Durango thinking about how this redesign was going to happen and the hours that we put into really strategizing around what you're exactly saying, creating the most epic and amazing and impactful experience for people going through the masterclass. And there's tons of ideas every year, but I think back going 2 years ago, how much effort has gone into just making this specific masterclass. I got to ask, because you always have surprises. You have every masterclass, you always have surprises. And for our launch family, is there anything you can tell them specifically about surprises, or are they going to have to just go check it out?
Ooh, I don't know. You're going to make us give away some secrets here, man.
I got to ask. I'm on their side. I got to ask, but I leave it up to you.
I am a big fan of, yes, we do have some surprises, but I love to let the story unfold and let those surprises roll out, because they're not surprises if we tell people that they're coming.
Yeah. I figured not. But there are surprises coming. All right. What about a squirrel cam? I don't know if anyone's ever seen that before. We've had something called the squirrel cam in the past. And if you're wondering what that is, I don't know, maybe you could talk about it for a second, but that was a fun thing that came out of previous master classes.
Yeah, we've had a scroll cam a number of years, because like when I do these live broadcasts, they are live, and I'm like in the secret headquarters, just the way the normal set that we use. When I'm looking at the camera, right next to the camera is a big door, like a couple of French doors, like with the big windows, and it looks out on our deck. And the one time we're doing this live, and there was a squirrel just playing and playing and playing, and I'm trying to look at the camera, but just to the left of the camera is this squirrel playing around, and it just it's that old joke about entrepreneurs and seeing squirrel, squirrel, squirrel,
Yeah.
and having a hard time staying focused. And this was like me with like a real live literal squirrel right, in my vision right next to the camera. And so we ended up I ended up just saying, hey folks, if I seem distracted, it's because there's a squirrel playing like literally right next to the camera. And sure enough, then Dan hooked up a squirrel camera so that people could see the squirrel playing while we were doing the broadcast.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. We put like a little like effect over it, so it, had a little blinking red light. It kind of looked like security cam footage, and it was squirrel cam across the bottom of the screen, big text and stuff. So we hooked that up for the next one. But I think that's such a lesson, though. Like it, there's stuff that's happening live, and so instead of Jeff just trying to ignore it or just calls it out, like this is something that we see so many of the best do, is they lean into whatever's happening in the moment. So if you have a squirrel dancing there, just make it part of the story, right? Just saying, hey, there's a squirrel there, it's kind of distracting me, everyone has a good little laugh, and then Jeff can go on with doing his stuff, and then the next one, we put the squirrel cam in there, and then we kept going back to the squirrel cam. And it's funny because we actually haven't really had the squirrel cam for a couple years, but every single masterclass we get comments still where people are like, where are the squirrels, how are the squirrels doing? And we've switched it up a little bit. There was a couple years ago where I had a brand new little kitten, and so she was playing around in the studio like while we were doing this. We hooked up. Her name's Nug, so we hooked up the Nug cam, and so it's just a lesson, right? Like, play into what's going on, and have fun with it, right?
Tune in to see who the mascot is for this year's launch masterclass. We're going to find out, right?
Yeah. We're going to find out too. And it usually just reveals itself to us. It's not usually a plan.
When I think of our brand and who we are as a company, I think, what's built this company is just the results that our clients have gotten over the years. And we have people that have been, that show up every single year for this masterclass. People that are like our superstar students that are doing launches of 6 figures and even 7 figures, and they show up. And I think that's what's built our business over the years. Well, I know that's what's built our business, but we also have a core tenet. We like to have fun. I mean, we're creating this is a business that I created. Now my team and I have created. And, if you're going to create something, my thinking at least is, why not have some fun while you're doing it? So if we can do that with a squirrel cam and maybe help people keep them engaged, because we're occasionally showing them a squirrel and they get to see me having to work with situations that come up live because we are live, then so much the better.
Yeah. And I think that's something that it feels so much more authentic too, right? And that's something that I think we really lean into, even to the extent that, like, we're teaching people how to launch, and we're doing it by doing a launch. And that's something we 100% lean into. And that's something that, if you're listening to this right now, I would 100%, I think that's some of the best learning out of the launch masterclass, honestly, is coming in and watching how the launch master, the launch OG himself, is putting together a launch. And that's something that we'll talk about during the launch. We'll say, Jeff will say, hey, I'm in the middle of a launch. This is my launch. So while you're learning how to launch, you can also kind of take a step back to a more meta level and watch how I'm actually doing it. There's nothing that's being hidden. There's no slick shine with the man behind the curtain controlling everything here. It really is just like it's trying to be as transparent as possible, saying, hey, we have something really cool. We're really excited to share it with you. And hey, get as much value as you can out of every aspect of it as you can.
Yeah. So if you're listening right now, depending on when this episode drops, theoretically, we're going to drop it right at the beginning of the masterclass. We'll have a link for you. I don't know if we can just even say the link right now. We probably know what the link is, but
I'll definitely tag it in, or check the show notes. It'll be in there for you.
Yeah. And it will be an experience. We're going to give you an experience. We're going to give you some great training. You're going to learn a lot about marketing, about creating momentum in your business, about creating value before you even ask for the sale, which I think, that's the thing that Product Launch Formula has been about for almost 20 years now. And, we were championing that before anyone even thought about it. And so head on over, you're going to get great value. You're going to learn a lot. And like Dan said, also just watch how we're doing it. If past history is any guide, you're going to see a launch executed at the absolute highest level, where we deliver huge value, and then we'll make an offer. And I'd love to have you join us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll be putting in the link for you guys either right after this, but we hope this and the Launch Masterclass inspires our launch family to dare to launch.